This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Perfect Bistro Cat Food. Hey guys, today I'm interviewing my cat about his perfect bistro food. Percy, you seem to be a big Perfect Bistro fan. Care to comment? Totally. What do you like about it? You love the high quality ingredients? And the delicious flavors, of course. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Listen to Percy, guys. Visit perfectbistro.com to try it for your cat.
Hello! Welcome to The Best Worst. It's a celebration of the best and the worst of the television we love. Hi, I am not Meg Bashwinner.
And I am not Joseph Fink. But we do love TV. So we created the show to explore what we all love about popular TV shows by watching both the IMDb viewer best rated and worst rated episodes of a quintessential series.
Because we want to know what you learn by watching very good TV at its best, but also at its worst. Is it that bad at its worst? Sometimes. Sometimes not.
We have a set of rules here at this show, and that's no lying, no crying, and always trying.
What else?
Also that each show on this podcast must adhere to our set of rules, which is each show must have at least 100 episodes.
We want a show that really did the television thing, right? Like not 3 seasons of 7 episodes, but like really had enough where the worst episode is in fact pretty bad and the best episode is really doing something weird.
Yes, and we are excluding premieres and finales because those have inflated ratings, and we have enough inflation already in this country. And we're looking to watch television at its absolute best and not at its most important or cliffhangery.
Let's get to today's show. We're very excited about this one.
It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which ran for 7 seasons, 145 episodes from the years 1997 to 2003.
You're so nervous about doing this one because it has such a devoted following. We're not even to Star Trek yet.
Yeah, I know. There's a devoted following. There's an incredible amount of academia surrounding the show. The fans are very intense. I don't want to run afoul of them. I'm not trying to piss anyone off on the internet. But then again, I'm a woman podcasting, so I've already pissed all of you off.
And I am trying to piss off everyone on the internet. So what's our background with the show? What was your experience with it?
All right. So I watched the show when it came out. It came out in 1997. I was 11 years old. I was an 11-year-old girl. This is the perfect time in my life for the show to exist. It's the perfect time for me to see a young woman struggling with the issues of adolescence, but beautifully presented in a way that is empowering to her, because she is, I think a lot of 11-year-old girls at this time really wish that they had special powers so that they could have some control over all of the uncontrollable things and could have respect and agency in this world that denies so much of that to them. So yeah, it was a really special time for it to come into my life. But I watched the first 4 seasons because the show was on Monday nights and it eventually switched to Tuesday nights. And at the time when I started marching band, I was in the color guard and we had Tuesday night practices. So I fell off of Buffy because of marching band. For me, Buffy's always in high school.
No, season 4 is her first year of college.
Yeah, so that's where it stopped for me.
My experience, I came to Buffy in the form of DVDs. I was not really aware of Buffy when she was on television. But what happened was my sister is 4 years older than me. So kind of when I was in high school, she was in college. So it was sort of mid-college for her, mid-high school for me. She got super into Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I went up to Santa Cruz to visit her, and she had bought all 7 seasons of Buffy on box set DVD. And she showed me Hush, which was an episode we almost did today. Well, you can talk about that soon. And the episode we did do today, Once More with Feeling. She was like, check these 2 out. I don't remember. It's possible I Netflixed these, or it's possible I borrowed my sister's box sets. I do not remember. But I then just, with the DVD box sets, watched all 7 seasons in a row, kind of regularly on the phone, discussing with my sister our thoughts on where things were. So yeah, it was a very sibling bonding show This is very much a show I think of in relationship with my sister. That's how I watched it, was sort of under her guidance.
This show originally aired on the network The WB, which is pour one out for the WB. The WB is no longer with us. Okay, so the WB, which began in 1995, was a joint venture with Warner Brothers and Time Warner. When it originally started, it had a lot of Black shows, which is really cool for the 90s to be platforming that. I think that's wonderful. Then ultimately, it pivoted towards teens with its big hit being Buffy in 1997. So 2 years into their network, they decided to pivot towards teens, and they got Buffy. And this was the beginning of all of their other shows. Buffy came on as a mid-season replacement for the TV show Savannah, which I don't remember watching.
Did it get 100 episodes?
Probably not, being that it was a mid-season replacement. So the TV show Savannah, and then lots of other shows came after this. Dawson's Creek was a big tentpole for their network.
Oh, only 34, but 34 not bad.
Charmed was also on the WB. A bunch of other like sort of teen shows came on. But originally started out with Wayne's Brothers, and then the WB pivoted towards teens, and then the WB became no more. The Gilmore Girls was a WB show, so that's pretty cool. Smallville was also the WB. I'm looking at all these now.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a certain type of show, and that type of show is sort of like Buffy. It was Charmed.
Charmed, yeah.
Yeah. Because I always think of Charmed as basically a ripoff Buffy, because I do think there's like entire plot lines that are very similar to what Buffy did. I've never seen Charmed. I just remember hearing like, wait, they did the exact same plot line as Buffy? Because famously this won't be covered in today's episode because they're all later than this, but there was the whole plot line where Buffy sleeps with her boyfriend and he loses his soul as a result of that, which is a bit of a heavy-handed metaphor. And I believe Charmed did the exact same plot line, which is a little suspicious. But at a certain point, Buffy was canceled because season 5, they ended the show. They did a big season finale in which, spoiler for a 30-year-old show, Buffy dies. And then they got 2 more years on another pour one out for network, UPN, UPN was my jam. I watched a lot of stuff on UPN. And even more, it didn't used to be called UPN. It was something else before UPN.
United Paramount Network.
It did 2 years on UPN before finally going for good.
And then the CW emerged from the ashes of WB and UPN. But anyway, so that's how you could get Buffy to you. And then now we got Buffy to us by,
Hulu.
We streamed it on Hulu.
Which it's also like everything that's on Hulu is now on Disney Plus too, but it's confusing whether all the streaming services have become a disaster, which is what the show is about. The show is about television before that happened. Listen, it didn't sound great over there at the WB and UPN and CW. It seemed like they were all like sort of just, there was a snowball rolling down the hill at them and they were just... Yeah. I wouldn't say that conditions for the workers were any better. And we will definitely have to cover that in today's episode, as there is a monster at the end of this book and his name is Joss Whedon. But we can get to that, I guess, a little later. We've done a lot of introduction. Do you want to get to the worst episode of Buffy?
The throats are fully clear at this point about Buffy. So let's get into it. We're going to start out with the worst episode, guys. And that, according to IMDb, is season 4, episode 18, Where the Wild Things Are.
So this is season 4, which was a real up and down season. It's Buffy's first year in college. It contains one of the episodes that I would have picked for the worst, which is Beer Bad, which is just a episode where Buffy drinks beer and becomes a caveman because beer bad, and it's as blunt as it sounds. But what happens in Where the Wild Things Are?
So Buffy and her boyfriend, they're having lots of sex and at his frat house, but things have gone weird at the frat house. They're having so much sex that the frat house has gone weird. And there's some sort of poltergeisty thing that is haunting everyone at the house and bringing up themes of sexual shame. And ultimately, the poltergeist locks Buffy and her boyfriend in a bedroom, and they have no idea that they're locked in there because they're just having too much sex. But eventually, the sex will kill them. So her friends have to save her from the sex shame poltergeist.
Yeah. It's basically, what if you fucked so much you made a haunted house? But I will say, I do think this episode is not even close to the worst episode of Buffy, in my opinion. Someone on Blue Sky told me, oh, it's going to be weighted with Buffy because everyone's going to vote down the Riley episodes because he was so hated. Riley was her boyfriend at the time. And he really was just a pile of mashed potatoes. He was not an interesting guy. But I do think that might be the case here, where this is being rated down because it features Riley heavily and people didn't like him. Whereas I do think there are significantly worse episodes in this. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas in this one.
Watching it, I didn't enjoy it, and I thought it was a bad episode of television.
It absolutely was not a good episode of television. I just think as far as Buffy goes, this was lower average.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why also this episode, it doesn't feature a ton of Buffy. Buffy is locked in this bedroom having sex. And so like every maybe like 10 minutes, we kind of cut to her rolling around in the sheets. But other than that, she's not really there being a star and doing, all her slaying and all the stuff that I think one of the things that makes Buffy interesting is Buffy and the stuff that she gets to do and the stuff that makes her special. And in this episode, the stuff that makes her special is that she is twisted up in the sheets with Riley.
And I think a lot of the time's a body double. I guess we should get to the behind the scenes thing where, the woman who wrote this did not work in television soon after writing it. This was her last episode on Buffy, and she just fully has no credits after like 2002-ish. But it's not really her fault because she was given a hard job, which is Sarah Michelle Gellar was filming a crossover episode on the Buffy spinoff Angel, and so wasn't really available. And so they had to write a Buffy episode in which A, there's almost no Buffy, but B, they don't call attention to that fact. Like they didn't want to write an episode where she's just away on a trip. So they had to find a way to sideline her that was less obvious.
Yeah, it mostly becomes Xander and Anya episode, which I'm never mad about Anya. I think that she's fun to watch. I find her interesting. I think she can carry a show. Xander, maybe not so much.
And that comes down to performances, I think. Like, Anya was always my favorite character, and she's one of those... Her and Spike were both characters that were supposed to be one-episode characters, and the actors just really brought something special, so much so that they ended up in the cast. And so it's this sort of like... Those are actors who were so good, they demanded to be on the show, whereas Nicholas Brendon was not that. I don't want to get too hard into the negative on the show. I don't think that's what this is for. Nicholas Brendon, both not a good guy by all accounts, but also just not a good actor. Unfortunately, 2 of the episodes we're talking about today are heavily focused on him, and he was fine in the sidekick role, but I think he really struggled when he had to carry the lead of an episode.
I agree. So that's what this episode is. That is the description of it. We think it's bad because it doesn't feature Buffy. We also think it's rated badly because it features Riley. That's really the long and short of it. There are some other things in it that are a little choppy. And they did this thing with the show where ultimately you end up seeing a grip in the shot. And then there's another scene where you can see someone throwing a vine at Anya because they wanted to broadcast it in high definition and widescreen. They just started doing this in 2014, but they didn't get permission for any of it from the creators of the show. And that transfer was like really badly done because you can see grips and shots. You can see stuff that's supposed to be happening off screen. The color's bad.
They filmed in widescreen for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe the cameras just... That's how they were set up to do. And then they cropped it. So they set up the shots with a square in mind. It was never meant to be seen this way. There's regularly crew in shots in these widescreen transfers because that's never how this was meant to be viewed. But it is the only way it's available on streaming.
So there's that part of it, which also makes it look a little bit dumpy. The coloring, because the coloring's bad. The CGI rendering's bad. So that's like one of the things that as a viewer watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is bad. This looks cheesy. This looks like very indie cheesy.
Which I don't think Buffy was ever a visually great show.
So the costumes and makeup are incredible.
Yeah, the makeup...
The practical stuff is excellent.
The makeup of demons is often a lot of fun. They often find really... Even like little one-off ones, they often find very fun ways. But the like set and lights and just the framing is often not that interesting. That's just not what it was. It was not... This was not an era of television or a type of television that was interested in looking like a movie. It was just sort of light the actors and point the camera at them kind of TV making. I do think, though, that looking at what is in the worst episode where we can see why the show is so loved, I think there's so much there. There's the characters. There's a lot of interplay between the characters who aren't Buffy, and it's fun to watch them interact. They have a real family dynamic. And I think that's a lot of what really draws people to Buffy. Is there's the idea of the chosen family, and this is very much that. These are people who have made themselves into a family, and the dynamic between them is really, I think, the heart of what keeps people coming back to the show.
I think it's very much a cohesive ensemble, which I guess speaks to why people hate Riley so much, because he doesn't fold into the cohesive ensemble in the way that other new characters who do come in, like Spike and like Anya and like Dawn.
Dawn was very hated at the time, too, for similar reasons.
I don't know. I like Dawn on the show. I think I didn't like it when it was happening, but I looking at it now, I'm like, this was a cool thing that they did. And I think Michelle Trachtenberg, may she rest, did a really good job on the show.
Yeah, so there's that. I also think that there's a lot of interesting ideas in this episode. Yes, we have sex so hard that we make it a haunted house is very dumb. But the way that it becomes a haunted house, there's some really interesting stuff. There's the wall that makes people come. There's just like a wall where if you touch it, you orgasm. And so like all these college kids are playing with that at a party. There's this whole thing where there's pretty creepy, genuinely creepy ghosts. Like I find the ghost work in this episode to be quite creepy. But then there's the reveal that they're not actually dead people. Like all of the people who are ghosts are still alive. These are their teenage traumatic memories brought back to life as ghosts. So there's just a lot of weird and interesting ideas.
I agree that they're weird and interesting. I think that they might have been a little bit over their skis there. Because this big bad is a bit nebulous. We don't really fully understand the rules of it. It's not until like deep diving into this episode and really looking at the plot and the themes that I was like, oh, this is all there. But it did not come across on screen right away. I had to look at it academically in order to pull through and see all that. So yeah, I think it's a lot of big themes to handle in just 40 minutes. So there's a great cameo by the wonderful Catherine Justin.
Yeah, I was about to bring her up. She plays sort of the real evil in this episode, which is she was abusive. It was like a foster home, right? Or like a group home for troubled teens. And she was the person running it and was very abusive, and kind of the trauma she caused is what has made this house haunted. But she plays it with such like placid righteousness. She's very much still believes she's in the right and that she did a wonderful thing. She brings a much better performance than really anything else in this episode deserves. Yeah,
and then she's great. She's a kind of a TV character actor legend. She was on Desperate Housewives. She was Mrs. Landingham on The West Wing. That's what I know her from. Yeah. She also reminds me of my Nana. So I think she reminds a lot of people of her Nanas. So she does that well. Am I getting this right, that the house that they film in was a former group home?
I don't know about that. My understanding is Catherine Justin used to run, before she was an actor, she did in fact run a home for troubled teenagers. Presumably she was not abusive, but that was an actual job she had at one time. I think the house is probably a set. I don't think they were filming this in a real house. Some other notes. Riley, a very bland character, yes. However, my sister and I always really enjoyed the decoration of his frat house room, where he just has a big poster on his wall that just says balls, and then it's pictures of different, football, basketball, golf ball. It's just a very fun parody of like, it kind of is this sort of meta commentary on his character that he's so bland that he doesn't even like sports. He just has like a poster for the idea of sports.
For balls.
Mm-hmm. Other little set notes I noticed. So Xander doesn't get into college. His whole plotline in the fourth season is him kind of struggling with his friends are all going to college and he isn't. At the time, he's driving an ice cream truck. His ice cream truck has some really weird stuff in it. Among things he seems to be selling in there is giant rubber bugs. There's like a whole pile of them in there. He has something called the egg dipper. It's like in a box and it just says the egg dipper. I don't know. So whoever decorated that ice cream truck, whatever set decorator did that, was having a lot of fun with Xander's ice cream truck. Let's talk about Xander for a second.
Okay, back to Xander, everyone's favorite.
Well, there's an interesting journey I think a lot of teenage boys went on, where when I first encountered Buffy, Xander was my favorite character because he's like the teen boy. And the thing I admired about Xander is that he has zero powers and yet he is very brave. He's always the first one to run into danger. In the episode we're going to watch for The Middleist, he jumps in front of Buffy to save her from like an evil magician's blast. He's always very quick to throw himself into danger despite having zero powers. And I believe, I'm basing this on just remembering interviews, I believe Joss Whedon saw Xander as kind of a self-insert. Like, this is me in this world. And it's as an adult coming back, you're like, oh, now that I'm not a teen boy, this guy sucks. Like, you need that distance, and having grown a bit to be like, oh, this is like a teen boy's idea of what a admirable man is. And as an actual adult man, you start to realize, oh, this guy sucks.
Speaking of admirable adult men.
Yes.
Let's talk about Giles.
Oh, Giles. Oh, that's not where I thought you were going.
Oh, where were you thinking I was going?
The person who saw Xander as a self-insert.
Nope, not there yet.
This episode has an all-time Giles moment.
I am a Giles stan. I was not a Giles stan at the time. I think I just kind of like didn't really connect with him, obviously, because I was a young teen girl and he was just like he was funny. But watching it now, I'm just like, his performances are so good. And the construction of having an old British guy in this with these kids is so smart, and the relationship dynamic that creates is so interesting. And I'm just all in on Giles. And then in this episode
partly it's because he's more experienced, I'm sure, but he is just so much a better actor than anyone else on the show,
which is great to have when you're building an ensemble of young actors. It's great to have someone who knows how to do this, so that like there's an adult in the room who is good at what they're doing. And ideally that adult in the room is a good person. They talked about all this with Harry Potter when they were casting the Harry Potter films. They really tried to make sure that the adult actors on board were like really like good people and really great at their craft to sort of steward the young actors.
Yeah, the director Chris Columbus gets a lot of shit, rightfully so, for not directing very good movies. But he does seem to be a very good person, because he was like, we're casting children. We need to surround these children with like dependable, good people who will help guide them, which is really smart and good thinking that people should be doing more. I don't know if that thinking was happening behind the scenes in this show. I suspect not. But Anthony Stewart Head being there, I'm sure, as far as I know, a good person.
Let us know.
Let us know.
But yeah, we get a wonderful performance from Giles in this episode.
Yeah, do you want to describe the moment?
It's just they need Giles's help. They have to go find him because they can no longer just go to the library and find him. And they find him at a coffee house doing an open mic acoustic guitar set.
He's doing Behind Blue Eyes, which is like the classic dude of a certain age ballad.
And it's very well performed. It is so incredibly cringe.
The thing about it is that Anthony Stewart Head, and so therefore Giles, has a beautiful singing voice. So he is like performing the shit out of Behind Blue Eyes. I will say that at one point on my MP3 player, I had that moment as like a song track. So.
Oh, honey.
Yeah, I was a big Buffy fan. That, I think, is all of my notes on this one. Do we want to talk about behind the scenes briefly here before we get to the intermission? Or do you want to talk about it in the best of?
I guess we could talk about it here.
I do think that there's sort of an elephant in the room here, which is that the person who made this turned out to be, by all accounts, an absolute monster. And that sort of looms through everything that's happening here. It really is a thing of like every Buffy actor and Angel actor and any other actor who's worked with him, writer who's worked with him in public and in otherwise. I've talked to some Buffy writers personally, and they've had similar stories. It's just, he was just incredibly casually cruel to everyone. So there is that of just like, he seems to have been sort of monstrous to everyone. But as you pointed out, the biggest red flag to me, listen, I'm not going to forgive anyone for being intentionally cruel to people. That's not great. It's not okay. But the note that I saw is that he was not allowed alone in a room with Michelle Trachtenberg because he would be too sexually inappropriate with her, a child. That's just like, ooh. I didn't know the reason given. I mean, the source for that is Michelle Trachtenberg herself. She said, we had to institute a system that he was not allowed alone in the room with me. And I think anyone who's not allowed alone in a room with a child, there's nothing else to say there. Like, oof.
Oof, duh.
Oof, duh.
That's tough.
Yeah. This is one of those big ones to grapple with of like, I think a lot of really good people worked on this show. I think a lot of good actors. I think a lot of great writers. A lot of the television, in similar ways of like X-Files and Cheers, a lot of the writers who kind of made the television of now got their start there. Same with Buffy. A lot of the people who are making the television right now got started as writers on Buffy, and a lot of them are really good people. And I think this show meant a lot to a lot of people, but there is sort of this rotten core of like, what do you do with a work when it all orbits around a really terrible person? And that's not a question we can answer here, but it is a question we all have to think about. Honestly, way more than I would have hoped we would have to.
Same friend. I will say there are a couple of actors that he worked with that didn't necessarily come to his defense, but sort of offered that he was under a tremendous amount of pressure, which again, there's lots of people who are under tremendous amounts of pressure who are allowed to be alone in the room with children. So
yeah, I mean, that's like maybe a defense for being cruel to people. Although I would say I don't know, for the first year, you got thrown into running a TV show. It was really hard. So you took that out on people. By year 7, get your shit together. That's not an excuse.
We don't need to go deeper into the stories of this. They're all available for you on the big wide internet. But yeah, Buffy is a big thing that is important to a lot of people. It's a lot of interesting art has come from Buffy. A lot of interesting academic thought has come from Buffy. A lot of community outside of the people who worked on this show has come from Buffy. There's an excellent podcast, Buffering the Vampire Slayer, which has a huge fan following.
If you feel we haven't done a good enough job diving deep, go there, because they absolutely dive way deeper than we ever could.
Go there. Yeah, it is not our intention to do a Buffy deep dive. They will go there for you. Go over there. But the fan community that is formed around that show has been really important to people's lives. So yeah, it is that it's two sides of this sword, right? The one side of the sword is that this thing was created by someone who is not a good person in a lot of ways, and what he has made and his ensemble has made is something that's really important to a lot of people. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's with stuff like movies and TV where it's such a communal thing, it becomes more complicated than I don't know, if an author you like turns out to be a monster, it's a little harder to justify. For instance, an author that was mentioned earlier, some movies made from her work. It's a little harder to justify because it's just her that made that world, right? And so it's a little hard. But with this, it's such a group effort that it's harder to say all of the work and soul these people put into it no longer matters because the guy in charge sucked in a really deep way. It's a difficult thing. And so that's why we're not going to answer it. Let's get to our intermission. And our intermission is, how was that theme song?
It's a good theme song.
It's a great theme song.
It's a good theme song.
This one I cannot separate from nostalgia. So for me, this is absolutely one of the best TV theme songs of all time, mainly because I just get such warm feelings from it.
It makes you want to just run full out in the woods. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a song that fits its purpose, right? I don't know if a band put out that song, I wouldn't put it on a playlist and just listen to it divorced from what it's doing. But it, in combination with introducing this show being the thing that's you're watching Buffy now, combined with the classic, to me, sort of the ideal opening credit sequence of here's the actor's name and a bunch of clips of them acting from the show. It's great. It's such a classic TV thing. I just love that opening credit sequence.
I love the opening credit sequence, and I demand that style of opening credit sequence return to us. I demand it.
I think they should have done that for Secession. Imagine how great it would be if it's just Jeremy Strong doing various acting moments while his name is on screen.
Yeah.
It would be so good.
Yeah. It really works for Buffy. It also, it really peps you up. It really gets you in the world of it. And then Buffy is also just so visually interesting and different from a lot of teen shows at the time, right? There wasn't a lot of Monster of the Week teen shows. So yeah, it was great to see adolescents fighting demons in 2-second clips along to a great drum beat. It peps you up. It gets you in there.
Yeah. Some history on this. I don't have as deep a dive as I did for Cheers. Sorry to Meg's mom, who was very impressed with the journalism I did on the Cheers theme song. That's the deepest I will ever probably dive on a theme song. But there is some interesting story here, which is basically they filmed, I believe, a lot of the pilot in Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara was used for a lot of the exteriors of Sunnydale, which ultimately they didn't film on location much or at all. Most of this show was backlots and sets, but anytime you saw the outside of a building, it was often in Santa Barbara. And so they hired a TV composer to do sort of a more normal TV theme song. They spent a lot of money on that composer, and they did not like the result at all. They didn't want to use it, but they had spent all of their theme budget on that theme. So they basically were like, any local bands want to do this. And Allison Hannigan happened to be a fan of a local geek rock band, like a Santa Barbara based, had no real fan base, not a huge band, named Nerf Herder. And she gave Joss Whedon their CD and he liked it. And they actually happened to already have this song. They had not written it for the show. This was a song they had already had that they didn't know what to do with because it was fully an instrumental. Their thought was maybe we just release this as though it's like the theme song of a non-existent TV show. It's genuinely what they...
If you build it.
Exactly. If you build it, you'll end up the theme song of one of the TV shows of all time. So yeah, they ended up being the theme song with this song they had already written. They did re-record it starting in season 3. I think they did a nicer, like, sounding re-record. But yeah, that's it. It's just they were a local Santa Barbara band that was picked because Allison Hannigan liked them and because they would do it on a low budget and Buffy had run out of theme song budget. And sometimes, great work comes out of things like that. Shall we get to the best?
Let's go to the best, baby.
Which episode is the best, would you say?
You've had the rest. Now you get the best, which is season 6, episode 7. Once More with Feeling.
Yeah, it's called Once More with Feeling.
Once More with Feeling.
Buffy presented a issue that I've had before on the show, but this was a hard one because they're all good episodes, which is there are 3 episodes absolutely tied on IMDb user ratings. There's Once More with Feeling, there's Hush, and there's The Body. All 3 very good episodes, all 3 very different. I went with the tiebreaker of just number of votes. Once More with Feeling had 3,000 more votes than The Body or Hush, so we went with that. Hush is the first Buffy episode I ever saw, and I think if you've never seen Buffy and you want to watch just one episode, Hush would be the one. It's a really perfect episode of television. I do think in terms of things to talk about, this is maybe a more interesting one.
For sure. There's an incredible amount of craft that went into this episode. So let's talk about what this episode is. This episode is a musical. Comes into the grand tradition of musical episodes, which I don't think there were many before this. This might have been one of the first ones to really go for it.
It's a good question. It feels like a very specific phenomenon where maybe this started it and then it kind of felt like every episode of a certain length needed a musical episode, and then I think partly because TV shows don't go that long anymore, that stopped happening, so we no longer get musical episodes. It felt like there's maybe 10 to 15 years where every super long-running show eventually needed a musical episode, and then that kind of faded out again. This might be the one that started it.
I'm going to say this is the one that started it. I am. I'm going to say that this was it has influence, because there's other TVs that have done it. Scrubs has an excellent musical episode. I'm into that one. Grey's Anatomy did one.
Daria did one. I would assume Supernatural eventually did one. Supernatural, I think, has done every variation of TV episode that is possible to do because they have something like 300 episodes.
You know who's never done one? I'm going to say this. I don't know if this is true. Law and Order definitely has never done a musical episode.
I'm going to search it, but oh God, how good would that be? Law and list of musical TV episodes.
So it's groundbreaking. And then we had shows that were musicals. Like we go to Glee after this and High School Musical, and creating a musical episode of network television has had a big influence on the industry. And so, let's talk about the plot of this episode.
Sorry, I'm now looking at the list. There's Chicago Hope, Xena Warrior Princess. Ally McBeal did one.
Yep.
The X-Files apparently did a musical episode, which seems crazy. It has Burt Reynolds. Wow, that one sounds interesting. Oz did one, that 70s show. That's So Raven, Malcolm in the Middle.
So a ton of them. The plot of this one is Buffy's doing her patrol and she starts singing, does this whole musical number called Going Through the Motions. And then next she meets up back at the magic shop to be like, hey, is anyone else singing? And then we realize that we're in a musical episode where we go through all the characters, they get their song and their moment, and ultimately find out that Dawn has accidentally summoned the demon who's making them sing to make them dance until they die. Am I getting this right?
So it's heavily implied that Dawn has summoned this demon. It is then revealed at the end that I think Xander, it turns out, is the one who summoned him. The actual plot of this demon and who summoned him is little to no time is spent on it. It's just not important to what's happening.
Okay, yes. Xander did it. Xander summoned it because he wanted a happy ending.
Oh, that's right, because he and Anya they're engaged and they're having some relationship issues, and he thought it would give their wedding a happy ending. if he made it a musical. Spoiler, their wedding is not a happy ending. It goes terribly for them. As a huge Anya fan and somebody who at the time really liked Xander, that was like one of the greatest tragedies of my childhood, was Xander and Anya not working out.
Spoilers. Yeah, so that's the plot of this. The construction of this episode is really interesting because in order to write a musical, musicals take time. You can't really turn a musical around in a week. Joss had the idea for this and began working on it, but needed the time to work on it. So he wrote it for a really long time, sort of offline. And then they had to choreograph and film it also sort of offline of the show because they had to continue making the other episodes. So this project really was quite a huge labor of love and a really big ensemble, big swing for everyone to do this. So one of the things that I think makes this great is because it requires buy-in from everyone, requires a bunch of different collaborators to come together. It requires people to work after hours, work late, and really come together to make a big thing. I was telling you this earlier, that if I was watching a community theater production of this and this was the only iteration of that, I would sit there with my fingernails dug into my leg the whole time, because I think as much as everyone really loves this episode, I think it's cringy as hell. I think it's a tough watch. But I'm happy it exists, and I think it should exist.
I really like this episode. I am not a fan of musical episodes and TV shows mostly. People have for years been like, when are you going to do a musical episode of Welcome to Night Vale? And I'm not going to, because I just kind of resist the idea that you're supposed to. But I think this one for me absolutely works, and it works. Weirdly, I'm going to say this one works because of Joss Whedon. It's because Joss Whedon genuinely is a musical nerd, and this comes out of a sincere passion for musicals. This was not... I think a lot of TV shows do a musical because they're like, well, we've been running for 10 years. It's about time to do a musical episode. Let's bang one out. This is a guy who genuinely loved musicals and wanted to write one. And there's a sincere passion and a sincere love for musicals running through this entire thing that I think papers over some of the weaker points.
I do agree there. I think the references are great. We're referencing all different types of musicals and musical numbers stylistically. I think that's really, really a very cool thing to do. And I think it's done well. I think it really is a very musical nerd comprehensive piece.
I think the songs are good. I'm not going to say these are all-time great musical songs, but I think, especially considering they are written by Joss Whedon, they are not written by a person who is a professional songwriter. I think these are good songs.
And performed by TV actors.
Yeah, everyone did their own singing.
Yeah, everyone did their own singing, and there's sort of the permission slip for there not being good. It's just that the spell is that everyone is singing. It doesn't matter if you're a good singer or not, you're still going to be singing. So that's the permission slip that is written into the episode.
And there's the permission slip from the viewers that we understand these people are not musical performers. And so we have a little bit of wiggle room for them of like, this isn't Broadway. We understand this isn't what they do full time.
And I respect the hell out of that from the actors, because I really do see, they really all committed to the bit, with the exception of maybe Allison Hannigan, who was definitely terrified of this and was like, please keep me out of this as much as possible.
Yeah, Allison Hannigan requested that she not sing, and she gets like one line in the entire episode. I mean, kudos to Joss Whedon for respecting a boundary there, but he did allow her to basically skip the singing in this episode.
Yeah, but everyone else really commits to the bit regardless of their level of
Michelle
talent.
Trachtenberg also does very little singing. She was a ballerina, and so she requested that she get to dance instead. And she gets to do a big dance.
We love a dream ballet. We love when a ballet happens. We think it's great. And I will say that the dancing in this is spot on. Everyone really tries very hard, and it looks good. I think the choreography is great. The choreography is done by the wonderful and talented Adam Shankman, who, has directed a lot of TV, has directed a lot of films. He directed A Walk to Remember. He directed the Hairspray musical film. But I thought the choreo was good.
I mean, speaking of direction, so this was directed by Joss Whedon, who, he would go on in just a few years after that to direct, Avengers movies and do, big movie directing. With Where the Wild Things Are, we talked about, just visually, it wasn't that interesting. I think he'd grown a lot as a director and as what he wanted from Buffy. I wouldn't say this is groundbreaking television, but I think it is a well-directed episode.
It's competently done.
Of TV.
It's competently done. Yeah, usually looking at musicals on screen is tough. It's really hard to frame shots, so people are moving in dance. You want to be able to capture the dance appropriately, but that's kind of hard to do.
There's one shot he was especially proud of, and I can see why. I don't think it's that interesting of a shot as a viewer, but I can't imagine just what a pain it was logistically, which is there is a song in which the chorus is, and let it burn. And at the final big let it burn, 2 fire trucks drive by at full speed with sirens on behind the characters, exactly timed with the final word of the song. And just thinking through the logistics of, because they can't just go when they say burn because they're going full speed. So they need time to get to speed. So having to figure out the exact timing of getting 2 fire trucks to go like 40 miles per hour and then drive by the camera at the exact right second must have been such a pain.
Back to Adam Shankman real quick. I will say he performed Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr.'s wedding. He was their officiant. And
is this how they met?
Yeah, and Sarah Michelle Gellar introduced Adam Shankman to Joss for this episode.
Oh, okay. So she already knew him. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of, if reading through how people got picked, there does seem to be a lot of like, I was friends with this person and then I introduced them. But I think that's part of how you build a cohesive ensemble. Definitely with Night Vale, we have found with casting, it is much better to reach out through networks of people we know than to do blind casting. You just get someone who fits everyone else a lot easier. And that does seem to be what they're doing here. In terms of people who are singing, Anthony Stewart Head, obviously, great singer. Nothing to complain about there. James Marsders, also a very good singer. I thought that Emma Caulfield, Anya, I thought she was a very good singer. Not a very good, she was a good singer.
Great commitment.
You liked Amber Benson's singing?
Yeah, I thought it was competent. I thought it was sweet. I thought she definitely, it was above board.
It just felt a little weak to me. And maybe she was doing that intentionally because the character is a little weak.
Yeah, the character is a little weak, and then it's also supposed to be this sort of like poppy romance thing. So it is supposed to be this like tender, twee thing. And we're going to talk about the lesbianism.
Yeah, we'll get to the lesbianism.
It's time to talk about the lesbianism.
Oh, is it now? Well, I thought we were talking about singing
Let's
voices.
talk about singing, and then we'll talk about the lesbianism.
Nicholas Brendan, much as he was not a great actor, also a pretty terrible singer. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar. So Sarah Michelle Gellar did not want to sing. She was like Allison Hannigan. She was like, I don't want to do this. And the plan for a lot of the time was to dub her voice in. I said I would do this on mic. The person who they had hired to dub Sarah Michelle Gellar's voice was Jewel.
Oh.
They were going to bring in Jewel to be the voice of Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Could there be a more WB moment?
But Sarah Michelle Gellar, I think for 2 reasons. One is, as a person, I think she was kind of embarrassed at the idea that everyone was going to do their own singing except her, and made it seem like she was not up to the challenge. And then I think another reason this episode's a very good musical episode is it finds a reason to be a musical episode, which is, like in the title, once more with feeling. There is so much pent up feelings in the show at the time, and this was the episode where everyone lets loose with those feelings. Everyone lets them out. And so Buffy gets a very big emotional moment at the end, and I think she realized, I need to perform that. It's my character. I need to be the one to have that emotional moment. And so she did the singing, and here's what, I think she's a good singer. I think that is not maybe Broadway ready, but I think if I watched a regional theater with her in the starring role, I would not notice.
For sure. Passable work. And then I really do appreciate when a performer steps up to the plate doing something that they're not comfortable with on a talent level. I think that's really cool when they're like, I'm just going to try. I'm going to try my best and I'm going to commit to the work of it. I'm not going to phone it in. I'm not going to pull back from it. I'm going to step into it. And I think that's always really cool to see, whether it's successful or not.
As a writer and showmaker on like the Night Vale side, for me, a thing that I really enjoy doing is challenging performers, is trying to get them to do something that they're not 100% confident in doing. Because I think as an audience, it can be so gripping to watch someone really have to push themselves. And I do think we're seeing that here, that her having to really work hard makes this episode so much more gripping because she's really going for it.
Yeah. And knowing that she's filming it in little bits and pieces here while also filming other episodes. So it's the workload is intense for all of these people, and it's really intense to make a musical, and it's really intense to make a musical while simultaneously making other episodes of television. So I'm really glad that they made it. I think it's cool.
This is also around when Cruel Intentions was made, so she might have been doing movie work at the same time. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, she was the it girl all the time. You got to make hay while the sun shines, and she certainly did. And I hope she is enjoying her retirement now.
I don't know if she's retired. I think she just acts less. You talk about lesbianism. I'll look what Sarah.
I'm going to talk about lesbianism. So we have a Willow and Tara's relationship was something that was groundbreaking at the time.
She does work about once a year.
Good for her. So Willow and Tara's relationship was groundbreaking at the time. There was not gay relationships on television in the mainstream in any way. The relationships that were on television in the mainstream, in the gay relationships that were there, were always really traumatic and like really intense and terrible. And this aims to portray a loving, normal relationship. Well, I mean, there's magic in it that's not, there's some magic witchery in it that's not going great. Yeah, it was groundbreaking at the time and really an important step in LGBTQ representation in mainstream media.
There's also such a step forward, and this might have just been the switch from WB to UPN, but in season 4, there was an episode in which Willow and Tara were supposed to kiss, and the WB would not let them show that kiss on camera. It had to be implied off camera because it was seen as indecent to show two people of the same gender kissing each other on screen. And then in this episode, while obviously we don't see it, it is heavily implied that Willow is going down on Tara, like heavily implied.
There's some implied off screen here, but it's not just kissing, which is cool.
Yeah, it's just, it's like a huge step forward on what they're able to do with this couple. Although we were talking about this morning, I do think they were forced to cut a joke because in the scene in which Willow is having sex with Tara and it's kind of portrayed as magic, like Tara is floating and she's singing. And what she's singing over and over is, "You make me complete, you make me complete." And the really obvious joke they were going to do is cut it off so it ends with "you make me come," and they don't do that. They cut it off at a different point, which makes me think that someone at the network was like, you can't make that joke. You gotta change that, edit it.
In my memory of watching it, they do make the joke.
They absolutely don't, because I was like primed for it, and then they didn't do it.
And they didn't, and Joseph was let down. It's also, it's a love song about a same-sex couple, and that's not something that definitely not something that you see on primetime television in the year, what was it, 2001?
I mean, it's barely a thing you see on television now.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, especially in the type of television Buffy was, like on an HBO show, but like on like network 20 episode a year things, is there that much same-sex love stories happening even now?
I don't know. One of the, over 200 articles and books that have been written about Buffy, I'm sure address it. I'm sure there's an entire PhD thesis regarding LGBTQ themes in Buffy.
I have a couple more notes that I put down. One is, I just love that the number of Buffy episodes that start with her fighting vampires in the exact same graveyard is a lot of fun. 2 of the episodes we watched today start with her fighting, both the worst and the best, start with her in the exact same graveyard set fighting vampires. I think this one uses it in a very fun way because it turns it into this like Disney style part of your world type song, but it's still just it was kind of the thing they could always go back to is, don't know what to do, have Buffy fight vampires in this graveyard set.
It's a great way to start. It's in your toolbox. Use it.
I wrote, wouldn't be Buffy without unconvincing body doubles. Some of the body doubles for Sarah Michelle Gellar when she was doing fights, or in this case, she's like training, so she's doing like backflips and stuff, are just like fully men 3 times the size of her wearing a blonde wig. Like some of these body doubles. And, I think that's part of the charm of Buffy.
Yeah.
And lastly, this is also part of the charm of Buffy for me. This happens in both Hush and this episode, is whenever society is starting to break down, how Buffy the Vampire Slayer demonstrates that is that there are barrels with fire
in a barrel, yes.
They do the exact same thing in Hush. It's just like, for some reason, that is Buffy's like, the apocalypse is happening as we have a barrel with a fire in it.
It's incredibly evocative. With Southern California, we need fire in a barrel.
Now that we've seen these episodes now I should say we did rewatch all of Buffy. I want to say like 3 to 5 years ago, somewhere in that range. It wasn't that long ago. But have your feelings about Buffy changed at all watching these now?
I think so, yes. I'm at a point where I can really look back on the nostalgia of my 11, 12-year-old self watching this and how important it was to me then. And now I don't think it's, I don't think it's something I would fully watch again. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's of its time. Academically, there's certainly a lot to say about it, for sure. And I think that it has been said.
I will say that after we watched the worst episode, you were like, should we just rewatch all of Buffy?
I don't know. You sort of get into it. I'm mixed about it. I think it's such an interesting premise to show adolescence through monsters. And I think it's such a strong ensemble that, to me, that is enjoyable to watch. It's enjoyable to watch that being played out. How about you?
The older I get when I watch it, I can feel more and more of that distance of who I was when I first watched it, because there's such a difference of watching the show as a teenager versus watching the show as an adult. Of like, again, like I thought Xander was the coolest character because he was what I wanted to be as a teen boy, of like this guy, he doesn't have superpowers, but he's just super brave and he wants to protect his friends. And I thought that's great. And then when you're an adult, like having more of a distance, not just from Xander, but from like, you know, this was a show meant for teenagers. That's who they were writing it for. And a lot of the show is about kind of very teenager feelings. And as you grow older, you do just feel more of a distance from that. Like I can really appreciate a lot of what they're doing. I will say that this show meant a lot to me emotionally as a teenager, and I don't think it does anymore. And I think some of that is just I'm no longer relating to those intense teenage feelings that this show is talking about.
Yeah. Just 30 years ago, things have changed a lot in society. Things have changed a lot in media. Like what this sort of monster of the week, which has been brutalized in the widescreenification of it. There's better TV now. It's standing on the shoulders of Buffy for sure.
I think Buffy, if in terms of this kind of TV, I think Buffy stands its ground.
I think in terms of this kind of TV, which they don't make anymore.
Yeah.
I think it really is the best of the best. But for my tastes and time, I think, yeah, I don't think we're going to do a Buffy rewatch. Although I do kind of want to watch Hush now.
Yeah, I mean, Hush, listen, if you've never seen Buffy, after you listen to this episode, I do want you to go. It's season 4. I don't remember what episode. Go watch Hush. Just do that one, because I think that'll give you an idea of what Buffy did when it was absolutely cooking at its best. Like Hush is Buffy firing on all cylinders. It's a completely standalone episode as well. You do not, that was sort of the Once More with Feeling is paying off a lot of long running plot lines. Hush is just very much a like one and done beautiful episode. Not beautiful, really good. Just go watch it. It's creepy. It's fun.
I hope that by the time Iris is an adolescent, there's a TV show for her that explores feelings like this. Yeah,
well, we gotta save. I have some thoughts on that, on Iris in this show, but I will save those for The Littlest. Our Patreon show within a show. Speaking of which, thank you for listening. Check out our Patreon-only show, The Middleist, where we'll be discussing the exact Middleist rated episode to see what the show looks like when everything is exactly average. What's that episode for this one?
That is Season 5, yep. Episode 3, The Replacement.
Yeah, it's the one where there are 2 Xanders. As I said, 2 of the episodes we ended up watching were entirely Xander-focused.
It was a hard week over here.
So that will be available only to our Patreon members. That's also where we will answer any questions about Buffy or any of the shows we have watched up to this point. Thank you so much for listening.
Next show we're tackling.
Oh, that's right. What's our next show?
It's going to be Seinfeld, you guys.
It's going to be Seinfeld. This is kind of the first one, I want to say. I'd have to look back, but I think this is the first one where I didn't watch it. Like this is going to be pretty much new to me.
I watched every single episode of Seinfeld multiple times.
Yeah, so we're going to have very different experiences. Anyway, I love you. Thanks for hanging out with us.
I love you, and I hope that you are able to slay all of the demons that come for you.
Sorry, have you seen that thing where it just, moments that read very differently now, and it's Buffy's mom saying to Buffy, "Are you going to slay tonight?" And that's all.
I hope you all slay.
I hope you slay. I hope we both slay.